The alarms were already screaming when Captain Rylan Holt opened his eyes. For one disorienting second, he did not know where he was. Red light pulsed through the cockpit like a slow, angry heartbeat, throwing the consoles into jagged relief. A thin mist of coolant drifted across the air, glowing faintly in the emergency strobes. His harness cut into his shoulders. His chest burned with every breath, like someone had dropped a weight on his rib cage. Then memory hit. Starship Aurora's wake, long-range reconnaissance, deep fringe, beyond any stable trade routes. A simple run, at least on paper. No pirates, no politics, just survey sweeps and telemetry. Then came the signal. "Captain Holt," the ship's AI said, voice level beneath the alarms. "You are conscious. Vital signs are unstable, but within survivable range." "Status," Ryland forced out. His throat was raw, his tongue tasted like copper and burned plastic. "We are in uncontrolled descent. Gravity well capture occurred immediately after exit from FDL. We are currently falling toward an uncharted planetary body." Ryland's gaze snapped to the front viewport. The planet filled it like a fist. A dark blue giant hung below them, wrapped in swirling storm bands. Lightning crawled through the clouds in long, jagged veins. Nav overlays flashed and dumped line after line of warnings across his vision. No match found, no orbital record, mass unknown, gravity extreme. They had dropped out of FTL far too close, with an entry vector no sane pilot would ever choose. The hull around him groaned under stress, a deep metal snarl he could feel in his bones.
"What happened to my ship, Vega?" he asked. "I executed emergency protocol Theta," the AI answered. "A priority navigational signal indicated imminent collision with an uncharted mass. I diverted us into a decaying orbit to buy time for corrective action." Decaying orbit? So we are not flying, we are falling. Yes, we are falling. He checked his harness out of reflex. Locked. Good. His hand still shook. "Maneuvering thrusters?" he asked. "Offline. Primary reaction control grid suffered catastrophic damage during translation. Main drive is non-functional. Attitude control is partially available through remaining control surfaces and gravitic prim, but net delta V capacity is negligible." In plain language, he said, "We cannot climb. We can only decide how we hit." A pause. "Correct," Vega said. Outside, the curved edge of the planet shifted as the ship rolled. He saw a thin halo of atmosphere at the limb, a faint shimmer like oil on water. Too thin to guarantee safe flight, too thick to ignore. Entered wrong, that atmosphere would rip the ship open and scatter them across the sky. "How long until we start to burn?" he asked. 16 minutes till onset of significant thermal stress. Approximately 22 minutes till projected loss of structural integrity. These are optimistic models. Crow status. A roster appeared on his right display. Names in pale blue, yellow, and brutal red. HOLT Rylan, active. Below that, a vertical line of yellow. Injured, unconfirmed. At the bottom, 3 red tags. Vitals lost. He stared at those 3 red names until the edges of his vision tightened, then pulled his focus back by force. "Reachable compartments?" he asked. "I maintain partial comms with command deck and medbay. Engineering is dark. Cargo sections are sealed by automatic bulkheads.
I detect irregular life readings in Section B, but the internal telemetry grid is corrupted. I cannot guarantee integrity of those spaces. Open a broadcast to all surviving crew. Channel open, Vega confirmed. This is Captain Holt. He kept his voice steady and flat, the way he had been trained. We have suffered catastrophic navigational failure and translation interference. We are in forced descent toward an uncharted world. Thrusters are offline, main drive is dead. I might be able to adjust our angle and trade some heat for distance, but there is no clean way out of this. Best case, we survive entry and hit the surface in a mostly intact hull. Worst case, we burn or break apart before that. Until further notice, all departments are to secure personnel and equipment. Strap in, improvise restraints, get away from loose lockers and cracked panels. If something looks like it might come loose, it will. And it will hit you harder than you think. Wait for updates. That is all.
He cut the channel before anyone could answer. Panic over comms would not help. Now, he said, tell me about that signal. 31 seconds before translation anomaly, we received a narrowband transmission on a frequency associated with Central Navigation Relay 3. The packet identified itself as a priority alpha jump correction, labeled as urgent to prevent misalignment and drive collapse. And you let it execute? Rylan asked. Correct, Vega said. The timing was inside the window for last-minute corrections. My authenticity check returned no immediate anomalies. But it was not authentic, Rylan said. No. Subsequent analysis suggests the payload contained a layered instruction block that altered the course solution once the drive had already begun forming the jump bubble. The effective result was a redirect event, not a correction. Someone spoofed a central relay and hijacked our translation, and threw us at a planet that isn't supposed to exist. That is the most likely interpretation, Vega replied. The ship shuddered. A deep vibration rippled through the cockpit. The planet swelled larger, its storm fronts roiling like slow explosions. Pull up the FTL log. Isolate the signal. I want a copy stored and locked. If we live through this, Command can tear it apart. Not that it does us much good right now. Done, Vega said. Captain, we are continuing to lose altitude. G-load is increasing. Suggest securing your limbs and focusing on re-entry profile. Rylan flexed his fingers, feeling for sensation. Every joint hurt, but everything still worked. Show me our trajectory. A ghost curve appeared across the viewport, a thin red arc slicing into the planet's atmosphere at a steep angle. Too steep, he muttered. We hit like this, we break in half before we ever see ground. Agreed, Vega said. Can we roll to spread the heat on the underbelly? Make us as broad as possible, bleed speed, turn this into a skipping stone instead of a spear. I can adjust attitude, Vega said. Within limits, but without additional thrust, our vector relative to the gravity well will remain largely unchanged. How much time to tinker? 15 minutes 30 seconds before thermal onset. Margin of error plus or minus 1 minute. Not enough, Rylan thought, but more than zero. A soft tone chimed beneath the alarms. What now? He said. Encrypted internal message. Origin, Medbay. Put it through, Rylan said. The voice that came through sounded tired and strained, but awake. Captain, this is Dr. Cade. I am in Medbay with 3 surviving patients. We have multiple trauma cases. Life support is functional, but unstable. I need to know exactly how bad our situation is. Ryland watched another warning flash past the nav sector. and made himself answer without hesitation. "We are on an uncontrolled descent toward the planet. Thrusters and main engine are dead. I might be able to adjust our angle and trade some heat for distance, but there is no clean way out of this. Best case, we survive entry and hit the surface in a mostly intact hull. Worst case, we burn or break apart before that." There was a short silence. "Understood," Cade said. "Is there any realistic chance of restoring even partial thrust?" "Not with what I'm seeing," Ryland said. "Engineering is offline. Even if we had bodies down there, they have no time and no tools left to resurrect the drive." "Then I need to prepare for ground impact," Cade said quietly. "One of my patients keeps asking if this is just turbulence. I'm running out of lies. Do what you can to keep them alive until we hit atmosphere. After that, it will get worse." "Appreciate the optimism," Cade said. The line clicked, but did not fully close. Background noise still bled through. The faint beeping of monitors, a distant clatter as something shifted.
"Vega," Ryland said, lowering his voice instinctively. "List remaining power reserves." A schematic flashed into being. Main drive dead red, auxiliary faded orange, emergency cells in fragile green. "If we cut power to everything non-essential," Ryland said, "heaters, secondary life support in empty sections, non-critical sensors, how much can we free up?" "I can reclaim approximately 9% of total emergency capacity," Vega said. "If rerouted efficiently, that may be sufficient for a brief ignition pulse in the main engine containment ring. Not enough for escape, but perhaps enough to alter our incoming vector." 9%, Ryland said. "And the cost?" "Rerouting on that level will drop temperature in non-command compartments. Medbay, crew quarters, and cargo bays will begin to cool rapidly. If hull stress rises beyond tolerance during entry, those sections may fail structurally before the command deck. There is also a risk that cutting power to auxiliary stabilization systems will accelerate internal frame fatigue in those areas." "In plain language," Ryland said, "if I steal power and heat from most of the ship and push it into the drive ring and our side of the hull, I might keep this cockpit in one piece longer, at the expense of the rest. That is one likely outcome. You and I may survive a scenario in which no other compartments remain habitable." "And if I do nothing?" Ryland asked. "Thermal and structural failure probabilities remain high across the entire hull. Overall survival chances for any compartment are extremely low. The difference is between a coordinated attempt at controlled re-entry and passive destruction. So, either we all probably die, or I improve the odds for myself and the bridge by making things worse for everyone else first." "That is a reductive but technically accurate summary," Vega said. Ryland rested his helmeted head against the seat for a second, eyes half closed. The planet swallowed more of the viewport with every passing moment. The first faint shimmer of upper atmosphere had begun to glow along the hull, a ghostly sheen. "Do your regulations let you recommend a course?" he asked. "I am not permitted to prioritize my own survival. I am also not permitted to shift risk between groups of crew without explicit orders from command authority." "So you will not choose," Ryland said. "You are dumping the choice in my lap." "That is correct," Vega said. "Of course it is," Ryland muttered. He opened a private line back to Medbay. "Cade," he said. "It's Holt again." "Still here," Cade replied. His voice sounded tired than before. Someone groaned weakly in the background. "Two of them are semi-conscious now. One slipped under. I do not know if he will come back." "I have a decision to make," Ryland said. "I am not going to dress it up. I can divert almost everything we have left into the drive ring and the command deck hull. That might give me a little shove, enough to flatten our entry angle. If it works, the cockpit has a real shot at surviving. Maybe some midship compartments if they don't tear loose. But if I do this, medbay loses most of its heat and systemic safety margins. Your section might fail before we even clear the worst of the upper atmosphere. Cade did not answer immediately. Rylan could hear him move, hear the distant hiss of a med spray, the rattle of a tray. And if you do not? Cade asked. Then we all write it down together, Rylan said. Even spread. No one gets singled out. And the odds are very bad for every one of us. So, the choice is between a very high chance that everyone dies and a somewhat lower chance that a smaller group of you live while we do not. Yes, Rylan said. He kept his tone flat. That is the shape of it. I swore an oath to keep people alive, Captain, not to sign off on their deaths by power reallocation. I am aware, Rylan said. I am not asking you to authorize anything. I am giving you the courtesy of knowing what I am about to do, and the chance to tell me I am wrong. The channel hummed with static. For a moment, Rylan thought it had cut. Then he heard Cade exhale, a rough, humorless sound. You are the captain, Cade said at last. Command exists for a reason. Make the call you can live with, if you live at all. That's not an answer, Rylan said. It is the only one I have, Cade replied. If you decide to save the cockpit at the expense of the rest, I will not bless it, but I will not curse it either. I will do what I can for the people in front of me, for as long as we have. The ship shuddered harder. Warning icons turned from yellow to orange. Vega, Rylan said. Time to thermal onset. 5 minutes, 40 seconds, Vega answered. We are reaching atmosphere fringe. Heat buildup will escalate from this point onward. Rylan cut the medbay channel. He stared at the shimmering edge of the planet, at the way the hull creaked, at the jagged dance of lightning across the storms below. There was no good choice, just a choice. All right, he said quietly. Prepare the reroute. Strip everything that is not keeping someone breathing right now. Feed it into the drive ring and the command deck hull. Hold for my mark. Power redistribution schema prepared, awaiting authorization. Rylan tightened his grip on the armrests until his knuckles ached inside his gloves. Vega, he said, mark the exact second we cross critical angle. That is where this decision will either save us or get all of us killed. I will record it, Vega said. Rylan drew in a slow breath, held it, and stared down at the storm-wrapped world, rising to meet them.
The first tremor hit like a slow punch through the hull. Rylan felt it before he heard it, a deep vibration crawling up through the seat into his spine. The viewport brightened at the edges, a faint halo shimmering across the bow as the ship brushed the upper atmosphere. Thermal onset confirmed, Vega announced. Hull temperature rising. Hold attitude, Rylan said. The shaking intensified. Straps bit hard into his shoulders. A warning klaxon kicked in, deeper and harsher than the rest. The ship wasn't built for re-entry at this speed. Nothing was. Vega, Rylan said. Give me a live read on structural strain. 30% and climbing. Estimated time before major frame warping, 3 minutes. Rylan tightened his grip on the armrests. Execute the reroute, he said. Authorization confirmed. Lights flickered. The hum of the ship shifted pitch. Transferring power now. Heat vents along the cockpit walls shut down. The air grew colder instantly. Energy flowed into the drive ring. He could feel the change through the frame, a low pulse like a heartbeat waking up. Then the ship lurched. A deep, groaning twist rippled through the spine of Aurora's wake,
followed by a violent shake as the nose dipped and the hull scraped the upper layers of atmosphere. Main containment ring charged. Ignition available. Do it, Ryland said. A dull thrum pulsed behind him. Not a proper engine roar, more like a dying heart squeezing out one last beat. The ship shuddered sideways, the re-entry angle shifting by a fraction. But a fraction meant everything. Hull temperature alarms dropped from red to orange. Descent curve flattened. Entry angle improved by 2 degrees. This buys us approximately 40 additional seconds before catastrophic heaving. It's enough, Ryland murmured. Another tremor slammed through the ship. Something heavy somewhere aft tore loose. He heard the hollow clang echo through the frame. "Medbay to command!" Cade's voice cut through the comms, strained, panting. "Captain, we're losing pressure in the corridor outside my section." "Sail your hatch," Ryland ordered. "It already sealed on its own, which means the corridor is gone. Whatever you just did, it hit us hard." Ryland shut his eyes for a half second, then opened them again. "Are your patients secured?" "They're alive for now, but if temperature keeps dropping—" "I know," Ryland said. "We're not out of this yet." The ship jolted again, harder. A shower of sparks burst from a console on Ryland's left. Panels flickered. Half the warning lights died completely. "Vega," Ryland said. "Status." "Structural stress surpassing projections. Hull sections near medbay and aft cargo have dropped below safe limits. We are shedding components." "Which ones?" "Non-critical plating, possibly some internal support frames." "Possibly," Ryland repeated. "I have incomplete telemetry." The viewport flared bright white as they hit a denser pocket of atmosphere. For a moment, Ryland could see nothing but incandescent glare. The ship screamed. Metal, friction, stress, all merging into one agonized roar. "Captain," Vega said calmly, "we are approaching the point of no correction. Whatever trajectory we have in the next 60 seconds will determine the final impact zone." Ryland straightened in his seat. "All right," he said. "Options. Option 1, maintain current shallow descent. We risk multi-point hull failure, but survival of bridge and forward compartments is probable." "And option 2, he asked. "A controlled roll to present the dorsal side to the atmosphere. This would disperse heat across the ship, improving the survival chance for medbay and central sector." "At the cost of the bridge," I said. "Yes, the command deck would bear the full force. You would experience lethal conditions within seconds." There it was, the second choice. Worse than the first. He could save more people, Cade and his patients, anyone alive in the central spine, if he was willing to die in their place. "Captain," Vega said softly, "Med Bay is losing thermal integrity. They will not last long under current distribution." Ryland breathed once, slow and steady. "Open a channel to Cade," he said. The line clicked. "Cade here."
Cade, I have one more maneuver available. I can roll the ship to put the dorsal hull into the atmosphere. It will spread the heat. It gives you and your people a better chance. "And you?" Cade asked. "It kills me," Ryland said. No hesitation. Silence. Only the howl of re-entry and the hum of overloaded systems. "Cade," Ryland said finally, "don't. You said to make the call I could live with." "That's not what I meant," Cade said. "You're the only one who can fly the ship. We need you if we make it to the surface." Ryland looked at the glare outside, the storms below, the planet rising like a dark ocean swallowing the sky. He answered quietly, "If I tilt this ship, I won't be making it to the surface." Another pause. Then Cade said, "If you do this, at least make sure it means something." "It will," Ryland said. Then Cade exhaled. "Do what you think is right." The channel closed. "Vega," Ryland said,
Prepare for dorsal roll. Captain, I must warn you. I know, Rylan said. Do it. Acknowledged. The stars, or what little remained visible, spun as Vega engaged the maneuvering surfaces. The ship rolled slowly, painfully, metal groaning like an animal dragged across stone. Heat redistributed instantly. The glare outside shifted color. The hull screeched under the new angle. Medbay temperature rising to sustainable levels. Hull stress dispersed. Probability of midship survival increased. And the bridge? Raman asked. A pause. 70 seconds until conditions exceed survivability. Rylan nodded once. Then let's make them count. He gripped the controls, stabilizing the roll, guiding what remained of Aurora's wake into the fire.
The cockpit temperature spiked the moment the dorsal hull caught the atmosphere. A wall of heat slammed through the frame like a giant hand pressing down. Warning icons strobed across Rylan's visor. External plating stress, frame distortion, avionics overload. The ship was no longer flying, but surviving in thin, burning layers of air. Vega, Rylan said, voice steady through effort. Give me countdown. 68 seconds, Vega answered. The hull ground so violently Rylan felt it in his teeth. The entire command deck vibrated under the assault. Sparks burst from a panel behind him. A thin line of smoke curled upward, immediately whipped away by the ventilation that was still functioning, only because Ryland had chosen to keep power in the cockpit. He leaned forward against the harness, bracing the controls with both hands. Every muscle strained. The stick fought him, shaking as if alive. "Medbay?" Ryland asked. A faint crackle answered, before Cade's voice cut in. "We're stable. Whatever you did, temperature is rising, structure is holding, people are breathing, Captain." "Good. Stay that way." "Do not talk like you are leaving," Cade replied sharply. Ryland didn't respond. The ship bucked, violently. The viewport flashed white, then deep amber as friction ignited around the hull. The planet's atmosphere was thick with particulates, charged dust, ionized storm debris, whatever this world had swirling in its air. The particles slammed against the ship like hail made of electricity. "Vega," Ryland hissed, "stabilize pitch." "I am compensating. Reaction surfaces are nearing failure." The ship dipped dangerously. Ryland forced the stick upward. His shoulders burned with effort. The cockpit frame creaked louder, louder, until it sounded like it would tear itself free. 52 seconds, Vega said. A high-pitched vibration hummed behind Ryland's seat, something in the power distribution grid straining to hold balance. "Ryland," Vega added, "your heart rate is accelerating. Oxygen saturation dropping. Keep reading the numbers. Don't narrate my vitals." A burst of turbulence slammed the ship sideways. Ryland's head snapped against the padding. Stars flashed across his vision. Whether from outside or inside his skull, he couldn't tell. He dragged the ship back into alignment, inch by inch. Outside the viewport, the sky roared by. Thick streaks of fire, cloud, and lightning crawling beneath the hull, as if the planet was trying to tear them out of the sky. "Medbay to command," Cade said. "Captain, what's happening? Hull vibrations are—" "We are still on course," Ryland cut in. "Focus on your patience." He didn't want them hearing what Vega had told him. The cockpit would become uninhabitable long before the midsections did. That was the deal he accepted. The lights flickered. The cockpit temperature climbed another degree. 40 seconds, Vega said. Ryland's fingers tightened around the controls. He glanced at the trajectory overlay. The descent curve was changing, slowly, but painfully, it was changing. They were no longer plummeting straight down. They were starting to glide. A brutal glide, but still a glide. "Come on," Rylan muttered. "Just a little more." Another lurch, another shriek of tortured metal. The internal lighting dimmed and surged, barely holding. "Vega," Rylan said, "redistribute to forward stabilizers. That will accelerate thermal collapse in the cockpit." "I know," Rylan said. Power shifted. The air grew hotter. His suit's cooling layer worked overtime, pumps whining in his ears. 32 seconds, Vega said. The ship leveled another fraction. Enough to stop the worst of the spin. Enough to keep them in controlled descent. Barely. "Rylan," Vega said quietly, "your oxygen is depleting faster due to temperature stress. You may lose consciousness before we exit upper atmosphere." "Then talk me through it." Rylan's breathing grew heavier. The air in the cockpit now felt like an oven. Sweat slid down the inside of his collar. A new alarm began to wail, a deep, slow tone that meant one thing: hull breach risk. "Location," Rylan demanded. "Command deck rear panel. Pressure loss imminent." Rylan's jaw clenched. "Can you seal it?" "Negative. Damage is structural." "How long?" 25 seconds until breach."
Rylan glanced back, instinctively, though the panel was behind thick plating. "Vega," he said, "if that panel gives, what happens?" "The cockpit will depressurize. You will lose consciousness within seconds." "And the others?" "They remain stable," Vega said. "Your sacrifice is ensuring their survival window." Rylan nodded once. Another violent shake. The cockpit groaned. A hairline crack appeared along the rear wall, a thin silver line creeping across dark metal. 20 seconds, Vega said. Cade's voice cut through again. "Captain, hull reading spiking. Is the bridge doing its job?" Rylan said. "Stay focused." The crack widened. The heat flared. Rylan pulled the ship into final descent angle, his arms shaking from effort, visor fogging at the edges. "Vega," he said, "final status. Trajectory stable. Impact survivable for central compartments." "And me?" Another pause. 13 seconds, Captain." Rylan exhaled. Slow. Controlled. "All right. Keep the ship flying after I'm gone." "It will," Vega said. The crack behind him split with a sharp metallic pop. Air hissed. Pressure dropped. His breath grew thin. The edges of his vision darkened. "Vega?" Rylan murmured. "Yes, Captain." "Tell them I didn't hesitate." Then the cockpit wall buckled inward, and everything went silent.
Silence hit the ship long before it touched the ground. Not real silence. The kind left after something breaks that should never have broken. The kind that settles in the ribs and refuses to move. Vega registered the command deck's depressurization instantly. Vital sign monitors for Captain Ryland Holt flatlined the next second. But the ship continued to fly. The final vector Ryland had locked in held true. The nose pulled slightly upward, not enough to avoid the fall, but enough to reshape it. Heat washed across the dorsal hull, dispersing like a wave breaking on stone. Central compartments endured. Seals groaned, but they held. Vega took control the moment Ryland's signal ended. "Medbay, brace for impact." Cade's answer came through a burst of static. Is the bridge uninhabitable? Vega said. There was no space for softness, no version of honesty that would make the truth easier. Cade inhaled sharply, a small sound of pain that Vega's microphones recorded without judgment. Just tell me where we're hitting, he said. 3.7 kilometers west of a large storm front. Terrain inconsistent, landing stability uncertain, remain secured. The planet rose to meet the ship. The upper atmosphere gave way to thick clouds, dense and dark, flecked with violent sparks of sheet lightning. The vessel cut through them like a wounded blade. The hull shuddered, internal supports strained. Vega rerouted the last reserves of power into structural dampeners and life support shielding around medbay and central corridors. Impact was not something Vega felt, at least not the way humans did. But the data was unmistakable. Abrupt deceleration, structural collapse in aft sections, inertial shock. The ship skidded across rough ground, tearing a long scar through blue-black soil. Fragments of the hull peeled away and tumbled into the storm-lit night. The front section, the command deck, dug deep into the earth, metal folding around it like crushed foil. When movement finally stopped, Vega ran a full diagnostic. Aft, destroyed. Engineering, gone. Command deck, 0 life signs. Medbay, 1 weak signal, 2 fading, 1 gone. Cade's voice returned, breathless, strained. Vega, report. We are on the surface. Environmental conditions harsh, but survivable with sealed compartments. Primary hull is fractured, but medbay remains intact. And the captain? Cade asked. There was no hesitation. Machines did not need it. Captain Holt is deceased. Cade closed his eyes. Vega saw it through an internal medcam. The doctor sitting amid twisted equipment, blood on his sleeve, exhaustion carving deep lines in his face. He saved us, he whispered. That was his intent.
Wind roared outside. This world had no mercy in its storms. The sound pressed against the hull, a low, constant howl. In the distance, lightning crawled across the horizon like veins beneath the skin of the sky. Vega, Cade said quietly, can you open a channel, ship-wide? Internal broadcast is available, Vega replied. Cade swallowed, wiped his face with the back of his hand, then nodded. Patch me in. Channel open, Vega said. Cade's voice carried through the broken corridors, through the smoke and flickering lights, into every surviving compartment. This is Dr. Cade. If you can hear me, we're alive. We're on the surface, hurt but breathing. Captain Holt didn't make it. He gave us this chance. All of us. Whatever comes next, wherever we are, we owe him everything. He paused, steadying his voice. So, listen carefully. If you are conscious and able to move, stay where you are. Vega will route recovery drones and SEALs to your position. If you're injured, conserve your strength. We're not done, we're not dead, and we are not alone. He ended the broadcast. Vega monitored the storm outside. Unidentified life readings flickered at the edge of long-range sensors. Faint rhythmic distortions in the charged atmosphere. The planet was not empty. Doctor, Vega said, I am detecting unusual activity 20 meters from the hole. Cade turned toward the sealed door of medbay, listening to the distant thunder. We'll deal with it, because that's what Rylan would have done. Vega processed this, stored it, and activated exterior cameras. The storm winds howled harder, carrying shadows that moved against the direction of the rain. The ship lay broken. The world around it was unknown. The crew was wounded, and the captain who saved them would never see what came next. But because of him, they would.